Welcome to another edition of Cybersecurity Divas Leadership Moments with Lendrell Downs. Today's edition is brought to you by Fortify Experts, a cybersecurity search and consulting firm that helps companies build high-performing security and risk teams. Now here's Lynn.
Hello, my name is Lendrell Downs. I'm the founder of Cybersecurity DIVAS, and I have Megan Bell to interview today. Hey Megan, how you doing?
I'm doing well this morning, thank you.
All right, let's get started here. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
In a nutshell, I am currently a Chief Information Security and Privacy Officer with a company called Human API. I've been working with the company for about 3 years, and I love cybersecurity and privacy as a career choice. But it's definitely not where I started out. It starts with chemical engineering as a major. When I was in about 17 or 18 years old, I thought I knew what I wanted to do, right? Like all young people, I knew exactly what I was going to do. And then as I got to be a senior, I heard an interview from a company called Procter & Gamble, saw some presentations, was fascinated with the idea of product development. And so that was where I started my career, was in consumer products and building new product technologies. And I found the field absolutely fascinating. I was always learning and spent about 5 years there and realized I didn't want to be a chemical engineer, but what I absolutely loved was all of the research and the analysis work. And working with new product technologies just in general. So I ended up migrating out of consumer products and going to a field of data analytics. And back in the late 90s, as the internet was coming up, there were also other technologies coming into place with data analytics, what's a field called data warehousing. And so I transitioned to data analytics. I went back to school for a little bit to fill in some knowledge gaps, but data analytics helped me get my foot in the door, so to speak. I think with I started out with computer forensics as my first point on cybersecurity. And that opportunity came about because I had spent a lot of time doing data analytics, understanding of databases and internet technologies. So anyway, I guess you could call me a generalist in my career because I've done a lot of different things, not necessarily related. And I think that kind of speaks to, we all kind of fall into cybersecurity by liking computers, by being curious, and bringing the rest of my career with me. It helped me to get my foot in the door with cybersecurity and in an area that was really interesting, which was in forensics, where it's about research and analysis. You're having to analyze information, interpret it, and it's one of the most interesting things about cybersecurity. And so I don't work in that role any longer, but I still find that kind of same curiosity and the ability to research, analyze, and deal with new technologies every day in cybersecurity.
Right. You have a great story there, and our Divas in the Making is going to really enjoy everything that you've actually gone through. So how long exactly have you been involved in security or cybersecurity?
I've been in security directly since 2010 or maybe a little bit before then. Mm-hmm. And before that, though, I have worked in what I would say regulated industries, working a lot with data analytics, understanding what's important in security, the rules of systems, how they work, things like data protection. So that's where I'm bringing a lot of my history with me. Healthcare, insurance has really helped formally entering the information security field. I think when you consider what cybersecurity means on a daily practitioner basis, it means that you're having to dig into the weeds to do your work. And that's where these different pieces of my background work aligned really well. So formally 2010, but before that, a lot of buildup that helped me to transition.
Did you have any mentors that actually played a big part in this?
There's one mentor that made a big difference to me. It's a gentleman named Winston Crone, who was an attorney and had a huge interest in cybersecurity in his career as an attorney. And so in the work that he has done, he's an exceptional investigator. He founded a company called Kivu Consulting. I was fortunate that he offered me an opportunity early on to work in his firm. The other part of my mentorship was a woman named Kim Niket, who was CEO of Kivu Consulting. She's an amazing woman. She is an incredible business lady. And so with her business dynamic and acumen, and then Winston's investigative and legal mind. I was fortunate to have two great mentors, and I started working with them as Kivu Consulting was founded. So I was fortunate to be early in the door, and working at startups is a great way to enter a field because of the breadth of what you're tasked with as you do your work.
Right.
I think it's hard to underscore, we oftentimes in life, we struggle to find one. And I've had many different types of mentors through my career, but to have two at the same time when you formally step into a field is a bit unusual.
Oh, you're very lucky there. So what was your greatest challenge with your career?
I think the greatest challenge that I've found in my career in particular, because I like working with younger companies and startups, and this isn't particularly true in cybersecurity, it's balancing the fire hose.
Okay.
That doesn't make sense. I have often found here someone handing me a lot of responsibility, here, do this, and at the same time having a very steep learning curve where one has to manage to accomplish work, but one cannot go off the deep end. And that balancing point, being able to manage a project, build out some sort of a program or project management plan, and to scale without the same time not going deep, is critical.
Yeah, that makes sense. So with all that, then going into cybersecurity, what can you say in your early career was maybe one of your mistakes or biggest mistakes that you may have had?
Early on, I had a strong interest in information technology. And earlier, I had also worked with security companies and other types of information technology companies before I'd formally stepped into the field of information security. And I think one of the items I wish I would have spent more time on is, I think, career assessment early on. I suspect I would have found my way into information security and privacy earlier on. But part of that, getting to the assessment part, I think I didn't want to slow down early enough. But I think it's really important earlier in our careers to take inventory assessments, to spend time talking to career counselors and recruiters. It makes a big difference to get your grounding in your compass. The sooner you do, I think the more opportunities you have in the areas that you're interested in.
Okay. And how were you able to actually move up and get to your career level in this male dominant world?
I think one is love of what I do is the first part, irregardless of, the gender dynamic of where you work. The other part I think that has helped me out is working in technology fields through my careers. I think, oddly enough, I worked construction when I was really young as a girl. There were not many women working in construction, bitches. So I hate to say I started out early in the careers where there were more men than women. I think the other part of that was I had a very strong role model in my mom. My mom was in sales when sales was a very male dominant career, and I saw her struggles, but I also saw that the one thing she always did was she maintained her professionalism, and she kept that professionalism in everything that she did. She didn't let other important elements of who she is, that she had these elements such as being a female in a male dominated environment. She used that to her ability by being a great listener, for instance. Okay. And so I think learning from her, considering things like being a great listener, that constant focus on how can I be a better communicator so that I'm a better team player. Those characteristics that we bring, I think often as females, can be our greatest assets. And that with being the best professional you can be are great secrets for success.
All right. I want to take off topic a little bit. What was the last show you binge watched?
Last show. Okay, so I'm going to have to admit that I'm a Pride and Prejudice junkie. And there's the Pride and Prejudice version that has Colin Firth in it. The first time I saw there's 5-set series, I think coming out of BBC. I think I watched the 5 series twice in a row, or maybe 5, 10. So before that, I was watching when I was a young person. I used to binge watch Monty Python.
Yes.
I love Monty Python and always will. The spam routine is always really funny when they say spam, spam, spam. And so, but I also go back that I love classic English literature. And so there's a lot of different versions in Pride and Prejudice, but the one with Colin Firth is my favorite. I love how they're what seems to be realistic in character, and I think very true to the book. So anyway, I love to watch movies that often have a lot of truth to the book that the stories come from.
Yes, I'm about the same way on that too. Let's get back. What advice would you give a woman who would like to pursue a career in cybersecurity?
The one thing I will say is first, taking some educational courses in the foundations makes a huge difference. Having a platform of some classic education to work from, whether it be privacy, it could be something such as system administration, but find a particular foundation. And there are many of them. Working with data in today's world and being a data scientist can really help out. But having some sort of a formal foundation makes a huge difference because it allows you to have that role of yourself speaking as an expert. And I am a big believer in that helping to compel success. Then secondly, I think for cybersecurity, having to be, you'll hear this from many of us in the field, you have to be someone who loves to learn because it really is a firehouse in so many different ways. And it's something that is always a path as new issues come out, new technologies upgrade, new compliance requirements come in relating to the privacy of information and how you might have to, what else you might have to protect.
Right.
And so the commensurate learner is really important in that curiosity to keep going.
All right. So, I mean, you have your chemistry major, probably a couple of certifications, which I see you have a couple of certifications. So college certifications and all that. Like I said, I'm a recruiter, so I have people I'm talking to all the time. They say, well, I've got my Security Plus certification. What do I do now? But I didn't go to college. So how do you feel about that college certification balance thing?
Twofold. I think that for me, college was important. I started out in a very different part though. Chemie is different.
Right.
But for cybersecurity, you know, I have met brilliant people who have and have not gone to college. For those people who have not gone to college, what I've observed is that there's an exceptionally strong technical acumen and desire to learn. So I've met some exceptional software developers and IT systems administrations. I don't know if they're individuals or people in that career, but anyway, the people who have some sort of, again, you're bringing who you are with you by having that foundation. Right. So whether you've self-taught on Free Code Camp, whether you've just worked your way up through CCNA network certifications, Linux Plus, as you had mentioned, other certifications and experience, the sysadmin software development background and expertise that can be brought through work experience and self-study certainly is a good foundation. So again, bring your experience with you, your platform. And the same thing if you choose university. I actually went back after working in forensics, realized that if I wanted to have a broader strength and platform of my own for cybersecurity, I went back and got a master's degree. So I had certifications that I sought, including a certified fraud examiner credential, because the idea of an investigative mindset is really important, not just for fraud, but in general, when you have to filter through and analyze information.
Right.
So it's a combination of the right certifications for your careers. I think privacy and security work well in that. And then your platform, whether it be experience directly or some sort of an formal educational balance.
Okay.
It's really going back to what's your platform of experience that you bring to the table.
Okay, I love that. What is your biggest concern about the state of the protecting cyber threats today?
I think the state I go back to, it's living inside the ocean effect. Again, you don't want to fall deep. Mm-hmm. And you have to stay. So there's two parts to this. How do you not do that? Number one is it's constantly looking at risk. And it's also, it has to be in any work environment you live in, it has to be a collective experience of responsibility. You're having to work with everyone in the organization to deal with what are the risks for what you do, training people to address risk. So it's a group and collaborative experience in any company. That's number one. And number two, it's keeping abreast of what your technologies are and figuring out what's the best package. It's not so many products that you may use, but it's what products for security work best. It's making sure that compliance is very solid. And it's making sure that there's also the right underpinning of expertise, whether it's having outside resources or training inside resources to help do risk assessment, to help do software security standards. Let's say you need outside expertise in a topic like business continuity, so to speak, right? Or privacy compliance. Mm-hmm. Getting that investment early and often and have that being a core part of your security programs and pipeline are essential to dealing with not falling out of the deep end, but also getting to the depth of where you've got the right compliance program in place to drive requirements. And then you're going deep to make sure your standards and your security tools are working at the right levels, and you have people engaged who know what these things mean and how to use them.
All right, that makes sense. What are people or employers not doing enough of to keep these threats at bay?
One of the things that I think we all struggle with and want more of, but it's hard to find the balance for, is the right type of training in security and privacy and compliance. You have to go full stack.
Right.
You know, if you tell somebody, you've got this law for 72-hour breach notification. Well, what's that mean? Who do I inform? What phone number? What incident response program? When do we pull a trigger? How do I know what, first notice means? Right? That's a full stack of issues and to deal with. And so ongoing training is important, but you're having to deal with, in light of resources, people getting their jobs done, making sure that you found the right blend of knowledge for the right people at the right time. And then that team effect of being able to work together. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges, is we can't make everybody experts in cybersecurity, but we have to make everybody experts, at least in their domain, and have the ability to work highly effectively in teams when we need to respond and pull the right triggers, whether it's the right log files, whether it's calling the right people at the right time, or practicing see something, say something, that essential awareness that there may be an issue in my environment.
Right. And what do you think the biggest opportunity to improve cybersecurity?
I think the biggest opportunities are twofold. One, I think many of the tools that we have out there, better integrations of some of our tools, for instance, risk assessment tools that are also training tools. We have a lot of experts across the board in different fields, from software developers to people who work in customer success, right, with front-end customers. They're all experts in their own way, and yet training is push. But if we could build feedback mechanisms of getting feedback on a particular security issue while running training, we can integrate risk and training. So I think the other part are tools for notifications, being overwhelmed by logs. I think that there's opportunity there as we see AI and other technologies begin to be more, to bridge the gap between what people know and what we see and can respond to with systems and alerts. So I guess the two things: one, better integration and use of some of the AI and other data analytics technologies coming out will continue to make our jobs better. And then number two, using people as a tool and a feedback mechanism at the right points, like training and getting feedback on risk, like it's voyeuristic assessment, things like that. Make a huge difference.
All right. One last question. What is the funniest or the craziest thing you experience in cybersecurity?
The craziest thing is, it reminds me of what we see a lot out with the pandemic right now. And this isn't happening to me. And then you've got an issue happening, but it takes 24, 48 hours or longer for people to realize they have an issue. It sounds crazy to think that when we have to respond right away, people are saying, that's not me, that didn't happen. And then that wanting to live in denial is the strangest part. And then I think the other part, and this is the risk part. If you have a really serious incident, people not realizing that there can be a multi-year tail when it goes into a serious cyber breach, like not realizing how serious something can be. It is not one incident, close the door, oh my God, thank God nothing really happened. No, you're lucky you didn't realize you had 5 years of something that could have taken down your company. Do you realize how serious this is? I think that level of awareness, we want to live inside our boxes. Things are great, I'm in control. But a sad thing for most of us who've ever security worked in investigations, it is one item, it is one hole in one dam that could bring everything down. And that's the scary part. So we don't want to live in fear, but at the same time, we all need to have an awareness that tail effect of, it's not just closing out the incident. It's, do you understand what it means to cover the long-term risk? So don't close the door. This is where your best practice, like in the IT and in information security, did you do a postmortem? Did you get everybody to talk about something? You just had an incident. Is everybody being honest about where we need to go next with this? Keep the conversation going. Don't close the door. I'd say that's the one thing of ongoing conversations. We need to put ourselves and stay sometimes in those difficult situations and resonate a bit, not just close the door and dot I's and cross T's and leave.
Right.
That's risk management, but it's something that we do naturally as humans. I'm done. Oh, thank God. Hard to resonate. It's hard to resonate after a disaster and spend time thinking about how bad something could be. It's taxing, but we have to do it to get better.
Yes, yes. Well, Megan, you know what? I really appreciate you doing this interview with me and being the diva you are. You are a driven, inspirational, visionary, and you have taken action in security. And I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your kind words. I appreciate your time and the opportunity to share my story. Thank you.
Thank you.